How do you stop tying self-worth to productivity? This is a question I received during a recent private event Q&A while discussing the lack of confidence overwhelm culprit. And the timing couldn't be better because I also received the same exact question from a coaching client late yesterday. So I figured this is a great topic to be covering here because here's the truth. This is not a productivity issue. It's actually a money mindset issue. And today I'm going to break down exactly why for you. If you're a high achiever who feels lazy, if you're not doing something all the time, then you're going to want to stick around. By the end of today's episode, you'll know why this happens, as well as how to rewire your thinking surrounding it. If you're new here, my name is Corrie Logaitis, otherwise known as Corrie Lo, and I'm a professional keynote speaker, facilitator, leadership expert, and author who helps high achievers transform overwhelm into confident leadership action, even in times of crisis. I understand this question so deeply because for years, I tied my own worth to my productivity to the point where I even was more or less forced to tackle the issue with my therapist. It really all came to a head for me immediately after having my daughter. This was about 5 years ago. And this is how I felt. Anytime I wasn't spending working on my business, I felt like I was slowly failing. And this created this really unhealthy cycle where I would check social media stats, my email performance, all these different statistics to validate my efforts were paying off. So even though I couldn't spend time actually working on it, I felt like if I was checking it, like I was doing something to actually make it do more. And I was so badly seeking that external validation through the numbers. And it really affected my mental health. It affected it so badly that during this period, I hired a coach whose specialty was getting entrepreneurs off of social media and digital outlets because I was in a really bad place. And even with all of this, I still hadn't solved the root problem. And I wouldn't figure out what that root cause was until years later, where I learned that all of these behaviors I was doing was actually a form of self-sabotage. Surprisingly enough, I didn't actually crack the core issue until I started working on my money mindset and start becoming aware of my old patterning. Now, before we go ahead and dive in, I would love to know, is this something that you struggle with? If you measure your own self-worth by your productivity, raise your hand in the comments. This is actually so common. Like I said, I hear it from audiences all the time. I hear it from my coaching clients. So if you're a high performer, you are not alone. So I'm circling back to what I actually found helps solve this problem. For me, it was learning a process that I learned from a money mindset coach named Denise Duffield Thomas. I talk about her often here on the channel. She has a great podcast. She has amazing books on money mindset specifically. And this was a process that I learned and I've adapted since for multiple different types of uses in her money bootcamp program. But basically, she calls it the OCP process. So it's looking at your origin story, then connecting it to a sabotage, and then engaging in some sort of a pattern interrupt. Now, I love this process because you could actually use it to rewire multiple different types of fears and sabotages. It doesn't necessarily have to pertain to money mindset specifically, but she teaches it in the realm of money mindset. And what was interesting for me in going through this process was I didn't realize until I was doing this that my overworking and constantly needing to be doing things to more or less prove my worth was actually related to my money mindset specifically. So for me, going through the OCP process, when I looked at my origin story, there was actually multiple different origin stories that I was able to tie this behavior to. So the first one was that anytime that I wanted attention, mostly from my parents at that time, I got the most attention when I achieved something. And this wasn't necessarily anything, it doesn't reflect poorly on my parents. I actually had a really great childhood. I grew up with a younger brother that had special needs. And so it was very difficult to get their attention because their attention was divided that he really needed their attention. But anytime I went over and above and did something amazing, especially in comparison to other children, I received so much validation and positive attention. So I ended up tying in my mind that if I achieve something, I get positive attention. Another story that I had told myself for many years, and this was watching my parents, was work hard, play hard. So I'm a third generation entrepreneur. My family is filled with entrepreneurs, and they've always had that hustle hard mindset, and they would put in long hours, which brings me to the third story that I would tell myself, which was you have to put in time to make the money. So I watched folks like my dad who were working very long hours. He was always out super early before I woke up. He got home like 8 o'clock at night. We would end up having dinner because we still wanted to eat as a family, but he didn't get home until 8 o'clock from work. So he was always working really, really hard. He was always playing really hard. My family was really big on celebrations and entertaining and business dinners and things like that. So in my mind, this was normal, that you had to more or less overperform to get that level of worth and that money. So from there, you got to connect it to a sabotage. So how are these behaviors or these stories that you're identifying connecting to a negative behavior that you're doing today? And this is how you actually stop measuring your self-worth by your productivity. So for me, I was working very long hours. It's a great example from after I left corporate to start my own business. I suddenly had over 20 hours a week I wasn't commuting that I had initially planned to spend with my son. What ended up happening instead was I filled those 20 hours with extra work. And I had a very difficult time turning it off. So I would work very long hours. I was also working nights and weekends. I had no boundaries at all whatsoever around when I would actually do work. I always had these feelings as well that nothing was ever enough. I never really felt secure. So when I was able to earn and accomplish more, I felt like I was safer. Right. And another way that I sabotaged myself through this was by never hiring help. I always felt like I needed to be the one to do everything because I always got praised for being able to do everything. And it doesn't necessarily mean that's the right thing to do. That's how I was sabotaging myself through these stories that I observed and told myself for many, many years that I absorbed from other people. Now, from there, in order to rewire this, you do something called a pattern interrupt. One of my favorite ways to do this is through affirmations. You want a really excellent tool for affirmations, just use AI. You just put in your goals and just ask it to give you some affirmation ideas. It's excellent. I also love an app called the ThinkUp app. It's free and you can find different types of affirmations on there. But in particular, you want to do affirmations that are tied to your negative beliefs. So I actually had gone through my phone on the ThinkUp app and I found some various affirmations that I was telling myself during this phase of my life when I needed to rewire my self-worth. So some of them included things like, I love myself exactly how I am, or I am worthy of being seen, or I am worthy of all I deserve, or I am kind to myself so I can operate at a high frequency and attract everything that I want. And the last one, which was probably the most impactful for me, was I work half the time for twice as much money. Because I truly didn't believe it was possible. And I had to repeat it to myself every single day through affirmations before I actually believed it for myself. And through this entire process, what I learned, and it wasn't just how to stop measuring my worth based on my productivity. I learned that time spent doesn't always equal value and money generated. I also learned that you could be highly efficient while spending less time on things. And really, the thing that taught me this was motherhood. Being a parent in general, it teaches you how to multitask like a boss. So it has absolutely nothing to do with productivity. You can still be highly effective and not have to spend a ton of time on things. I also learned that my worth wasn't dependent on my time, my money, or anyone's thoughts or beliefs about me. That was important. And probably last but not least, the most important part of all of this, but it takes some time to really believe it, is I am worthy for simply being who I am. I am worthy regardless of the time I spend. I am worthy regardless of the money I generate. I am worthy because I am me. I am a human being. I'm on this planet. I contribute, I serve, and I deserve. So therefore, I am worthy. So to recap what I shared today, if you really want to stop measuring your worth by your productivity, first, you got to stop looking at productivity as being the core issue and start instead looking into your mindset, specifically your money mindset and your beliefs around worth. I love, like I mentioned before, Denise Drewfield Thomas, we call her DDT. I love her podcast, books, programming for all of this. So definitely feel free to check out her information. And by the way, this is not a paid post. I share this because she has been genuinely helpful for me in my life and my business. And also for this specific issue, I found her OCP process to be really, really helpful. So again, that's determining the origin story of your belief, connecting it to how it is sabotaging your life today, and then engaging in some sort of a pattern interrupt like affirmations is a great way to do this. And remember, you are worthy just by being you. No amount of time, money, or other people's opinions needs to change any of that. You just need to believe it. So hopefully you found my sharing this today helpful. If you have a question that you would like for me to answer, please feel free to leave a comment below. I just may feature it on a future episode. And if you want to know for sure whether or not the confidence culprit, it's what's really stealing your time and sanity, I invite you to take the free Overwhelm Culprit quiz. The link is in the show notes. And you can also find more ways to work with me, either one-on-one through coaching and advisory work, or with your organization and team through my speaking offers in the show notes as well. So thank you again for being here, and I will see you on the next episode. See you next time. Thanks for checking out The Next Step with Corrie Lowe. If this episode resonated with you, share it with a friend, subscribe, and leave a review. Together, we'll transform overwhelm into action, and we'll keep taking the next step towards confident leadership. See you next time.